Have you ever had a ritual that was part of gaming? Something that was equally as important as playing the game itself? Well, for me, that was something that was born back during the PS3, 360, and Wii generation. So today, let's talk about what Games Tuesday was, what it eventually morphed into, and why, almost 20 years later, it's still something that's important to me and is the basis for this channel. Now, Games Tuesday wasn't something that was specifically built by me or my buddies. Really, it came about things naturally, as what occurred was a bunch of us deciding to get together and, well, play games. And it just so happened that back during that seventh generation, games were released, at least physically, on Tuesdays, 99.9% of the time. But what would happen is we would grab the latest games for our 360, our PS3, or on occasion our Wii, and then head over to a place that housed a man named Jace. And we would pack up our consoles, a monitor, or a TV that was small enough to fit in the car, and then head over there to set up and build on the foundation of what the N64 and to a lesser extent the Dreamcast, despite its untimely demise, created and fostered: local play. Now, most games, even during this generation, didn't necessarily include split screen. It wasn't a reality that things were still built on at that point in time, as the transition over to playing games online was slowly taking hold, even in the console space. But the reality is that we still enjoyed being together and hanging out. Whether it was the run over to the local grocery store to pick up a fresh, not frozen pizza to bake in the oven, or a big 2 liter of Big 8's Mountain Burst. Yes, the better Mountain Dew, if you can find it. It didn't matter. The point was that a bunch of us were hanging out together and playing the games that we loved. And there's a lot of different games that we played during that time. You can see it on the shelf if you take a look at my 360 and PS3 collection. But the reality is that the games didn't matter. What mattered was the fact that a few of us, at least, were getting together to share our passion for games. Even if we weren't necessarily playing the latest release that week, or if we weren't even playing something together and we were just playing our own games on our own consoles. It was enjoyable being in a space where everyone had that same passion and same enjoyment. Now, the name Games Tuesday clearly required a ton of creativity. As I mentioned before, games back then would physically release on Tuesdays. So it was natural that we just decided to name it Games Tuesday. But with the advent of online play and the increased prevalence of and convenience of voice chat, it meant that eventually, as we got older, life got busier, and things just started to drift, including our locations, at least relative to each other's homes, it meant that Games Tuesday slowly became Games Any Day. These are really cool cup holders that I got for this, and I actually originally planned on using 3M tape. Unfortunately, as a new dad, I have to consider the fact that my kid is both tall enough and strong enough to rip these off. So I'm going to have to go back to the drawing board and probably screw these into the arcade cabinet here in order to secure it properly. But that's a battle for another day. But Games Tuesday still lives on. Whether it's us hopping on to a chat through PlayStation Chat, in our particular case, most of the time, or whether it's jumping on to a call just to talk and play a few games in the background while we're hanging out together. It doesn't matter. When we do join together and jump online to play games, which, to be fair, for myself and a man named Jace, as well as St. Pete of Bad Games, it tends to be most nights, and it's always met with a regular games, insert the day. And the reality is, it was all born from Games Tuesday. Not that we necessarily play on Tuesdays all the time anymore. As previously mentioned, it can kind of be games any day. So, with the channel, my plan is to bring back Games Tuesday. These long form videos that are just regular single shots of hanging out here at what I like to call the save point. It's going to be just us hanging out, talking games, discussing either something that we loved related to games or the games themselves. And I want to hear from you down below. Let me know what your ritual is or was and why it's important to you. Because for me, Games Tuesday, regardless of what it eventually became, and the reality is that now it's Games Any Day, but Tuesdays are always going to be something that's important to me. So, in the spirit of Games Tuesday, and more importantly, in the spirit of kicking things off here with Uncle Ty, the gaming guy, remember, games are great. Go play some.